Clint, you mentioned the two big wide receiver pickups last year, Rob Thomas and Dominic Leggett, Colby Young this year. Can you give us, in addition to Colby Young, who you believe is that list of transfer players who could make an impact?
Yeah, absolutely. Colby Young and London Humphreys is the other wide receiver transferring in, gonna make a huge impact. London Humphreys coming in from Vanderbilt is a speedy possession receiver. Those two together don't really go. Possession receiver is usually somebody who has route running ability and catches the ball right near the line of scrimmage. But he is a speedster. When we played Vanderbilt, he was able just to absolutely demolish us for a touchdown. Drew streaking down the middle, speeding past linebackers. Dumas Johnson no longer part of Georgia. But I think it's quite incredible. Those two guys are going to fit right in perfectly with Lovett and with Rah, because those guys are technicians, can play any of the positions, but also huge possession, catchability, sure-handedness, trusted of Carson Beck. That's going to be huge. And sticking on the offensive side, ETN is going to absolutely feast in this offense. Everybody says one of the best returning running backs in the SEC. I think he is the best returning running back. We lost a lot of production to the draft, to graduation from running back, and we have a bunch of unproven or injured, so young or injured guys in the running back room right now. Roderick Robinson, another guy who we have high hopes on, but ETN's a different beast. The closest we can get kind of conceptually is DeAndre Swift, once of the Lions, then of the Eagles, now of the Bears. DeAndre Swift was able to put his foot in the ground, one cut, and up the field 20, 25-yard chunk plays. And we've been missing that in this Georgia offense for a long time. We've been missing explosive running plays. And if you're looking at offense, you say, well, explosiveness comes through there. Well, if actually you look at some of the top, Lane Kiffin, one of the top offensive minds, has a lot of runs, has more running plays in his arsenal than passing plays, because you can gain explosiveness from there. So I think ETN is going to allow us to absolutely have a different feel of running game. And then finally, McLeod over on the defensive line, Xavier McLeod, comes in, transfer, adds depth, probably doesn't add top and ceiling, but comes over from South Carolina, adds a lot of depth on the defensive line. Big man, over 325, over 6'5", and he is just going to be an added addition for a loss of Zion Logues and a lot of seniority over there. Kirby likes trench warfare, likes rotation of players to keep healthy and to keep fresh. And so I think those four names are going to be the standout ones for me this year to add a lot of added layers to this Georgia offense and defense.
And Clint, there's not going to be any issue with ETN being on the field. I know that he had off the field issues.
Yeah, absolutely. It's probably going to be, it could be a 1-game suspension. Kirby Smart, everybody hates Kirby for this, but look, it's his program. He gets to do. He always says, we'll handle that internally. Discipline handled internally. It's just every single time somebody will come and ask, and he will say the same line every time. I don't know why reporters keep asking him, but it's the same exact thing. I anticipate a suspension of some sort from in-house of Kirby. He may miss the Clemson game, in which case Roderick Robinson and the aforementioned guys will have to be leaned upon a lot more. But I do anticipate missing some time, but not a lengthy suspension, maybe even a half for that Clemson game.
Folks, please like the video here at the Voice of College Football and subscribe, and get on over and check out Clint's podcast with Clint and Daniel. They get together to talk Georgia football, and that typically drops how often?
We're daily. In the off season, we go 3 times a week, but in season, starting here in 2 months after July gets up and going, we'll be every single day, podcast, audio, wherever you download, as well as YouTube. And you can get both for us. And we'll be doing 6 in season when we do an after Saturday game reaction, as well as doing news and updates throughout the week of Kirby's pressers, injury reports, look aheads, and crossovers with other experts of other teams that Georgia is playing.
You mentioned KJ Bolden's development and what he needs to work on. Ellis Robinson, of course, at the top of the commitment list and signing list for 2024. Who do you expect could be a true freshman that could make an impact on this team?
Look, Ellis Robinson is a different breed of player from all accounts. He came in ready to go. His size is already there. His speed is already there. It's just trustability. And if you know Georgia, there's always been one cornerback who is probably locked down a position. And then the other cornerback opposite of him has always been a kind of roll of dice. And Kirby has no problem putting a freshman out there. Tyson Campbell was one of the guys that Kirby started freshman year early on. And so he's not scared to do it. And Ellis Robinson, if you look at all the experts on the recruiting trail, will say he was probably head and shoulders above other 5-stars. Not all 5-stars are created the same, and there's only a few of them. He was different. And so he came in and he is looking to start day one. And I wouldn't be shocked if coming out of fall camp, heading into Clemson, we look down and sure enough, we have a true freshman starting over there. Would not shock me in the slightest. He is probably my guy I'm looking forward to. KJ Bolden, again, might have actually a better career than Ellis Robinson because he's going to develop at probably year 2 in the system. The star position has a lot more complexities. Kirby likes to sit corners out on the island where you can just rely on pure athleticism, speed, and ability to read hips. And he does that quite often. We're like, man up, play, kind of the Seattle Seahawks of old. When they won their championship and then lost. That's what they do with corners. With safeties, you're asked to do a great deal more. You're quarterbacking a great deal more. So I do anticipate him to probably be the one I would look to most of all to get a lot of that. And then the second guy is actually a running back, Nate Frazier, might have a lot of opportunity. Again, guys coming back from Achilles and ACLs, ETN with that unknown game 1. But Kirby has never, ever let the tread on the tires go bare in the running back room, rotating a lot of guys because he knows if I want to get you to the league, you can't be tireless. You got to have something to show these NFL GMs. They got to be able to trust, no, you weren't just taking, 500 carries for 4 years in a row. So I think Frazier is probably the one I would look to skill-wise at the running back room. And we've seen, of course, freshman running backs at Georgia have great success. So those would be my 2 names to keep an eye on.
June's a month of official visits and camps. Where does the recruiting effort stand?
My gosh, we just got 2 big ones this last week for Georgia. And if you know anything about recruiting, when these 5-stars hit, when they drop, when they make commitments early and on, the recruitment's not over an NIL deal. This is an ongoing recruitment. But Zayden Walker, linebacker, just committed to Georgia. And my goodness, when you watch this film, I said earlier, not all 5-stars are the same. This dude might be the same type of situation where he comes in and Bowles, as well as a couple other linebackers, might be seeking another school because of this kid. 6'1.5", 225, runs a 100-meter with blazing speed on the track team as well. He just committed to Georgia. Maybe one of my most exciting recruits in a couple of years, ever since Nakobe Dean and Roquan Smith. I think he is going to be a difference maker and a heartbeat. And then Talon Taylor just committed wide receiver for Georgia. This guy is not only a crisp route runner, but blazing speed as well. And he's going to fit right into a system. I think 6'1", 180 right now out of Illinois. Those 2 names just hit, and it's going to keep on going. That bumped Georgia's rank up, I think, to top 4 or 5, somewhere in there, depending on what recruiting service you use. Before it was, I think, 8. The average recruit ranking is creeping up to be the best in the nation. And so that's really, really exciting. And then last one, USC just lost their edge recruit. I think today I've been keeping up on this because I've been trying to understand where he's going to go. But Isaiah Gibson just said no more to USC. Now, Ohio State is in the mix. Georgia's in the mix. He's from the South. But my gosh, I am excited. Number 1 recruit in the next cycle, regardless of position, and Georgia's well within means and striking distance to land him, which would catapult us to the number 1 position in a hurry.
Hey, Clint, before we let you go, I'm mighty interested in the trajectory of programs and then looking back, what brought a program to where they are right now. So, for example, Jimbo Fisher wins a national championship at Florida State. Things went sour in his personal life. He also, missed on some things there at Florida State. He leaves. The roster's depleted. 2 coaches later, it takes 6-7 years for Mike Norvell to make it happen, get them back on their feet. With Georgia, they were in a good place with Mark Richt. So I think Mark Richt gets a bit discarded by a lot of college football fans. He finished in the top 10 more than half of his seasons at Georgia. If there's a 14 playoff, and I'm spitting out things that you know better than I do, they go to a 14 playoff in 2002, 7, maybe 8, 12, of course, where they might have had the best team in the country. If a pass either gets knocked down or
knock it
time
down.
runs. I'm sorry, I had to bring that up.
Why just not hit the ground? Why has it got to be up in the air for days? That was so
anything would
painful.
have happened.
Anything.
So my point there is it's easy to say now, oh, well, Mark Richt was good, but he wasn't that good.
Yeah.
He was like a top 10 guy. Well, they upgraded with Kirby Smart. But no, there was risk there. Kirby Smart was not proven as a head coach. Mark Richt was. They had a good thing going, but they made that break to say, now this has happened with some other programs. Nebraska, Bo Pelini wasn't good enough winning 9 games. And they would love to win 9 games now. So it's easier to evaluate in hindsight. But what really happened with this Georgia program in regards to Mark Richt, where it was then versus what Kirby Smart has been able to do, which is just obviously it's a monster.
Yeah, I think besides the development of players has always been there. Mark Richt could pull guys from Georgia and from the South. People wanted to play for Mark Richt, and he was fantastic at strategizing. I think the difference was the game has changed, and you see this with Nick Saban's retirement. Nick Saban just didn't want to continue coaching in this new era of college football. That's it. Like, he was just tired and he was done with it. Kirby Smart knows how to navigate NIL. He knows how to navigate. It's very, very wild, actually, when recruits come in, and this happened with Caleb Downs, Ohio State. Caleb Downs goes on campus to try to get more money from Georgia in an NIL deal and pits Ohio State against Georgia. Kirby played chicken and didn't blink, and he said, if you want to go to Ohio State for this, like, go do it. I'm not going to play that game. I'm going to take care of people. Yes, absolutely. And that's why Ryan Day has, you better win it or you're going to be busted, because you got checks. They're going to come cashing. Kirby is somebody who has the facilities. He has the mentality. He knows how to talk to these young men and get them into the program with recruitment. Mark Richt was a good recruiter, but not an elite recruiter. Kirby Smart's the best recruiter in the nation. I think that's point one of this post BCS NIL landscape that is never ending and always there, which is why I made a prediction on the podcast a little bit ago. Kirby Smart is not making it to the age that Nick Saban did. No college football coaches, unless regulation comes, unless we start mandating actual dead periods, not fake dead periods, unless we actually say, no, we're going to no longer Wild West this thing, these coaches cannot survive. It is literally a 24/7, 365 process with these recruits and with these programs, and that's unsustainable. Kirby Smart so far has had the energy, the age, the youngness that he has had, as well as his aptitude to talking to these young men. So it's been very, very good. And Mark Richt, beloved by Bulldog fans. No one talks badly about him, and his even just departure of saying, I understand. I get it, guys. I wasn't able to take us all the way to the mountain. I understand. Do your thing. He did so well, and he's been welcomed back in since leaving Miami by Georgia faithful and Kirby Smart himself, which is fantastic to see. But I think that's point one. Point two is Kirby was able to get coaches that are top of their field. You see Dan Lanning crushing at Oregon. Oregon's going to win a championship before Alabama does in the next 5 years. Dan Lanning will have a trophy before Kalen DeBoer does. Absolutely. You see that. You see Mel Tucker even able to do things at Michigan State before that went sideways in a hurry over there. He was beating teams he shouldn't have beat. And there is a chance. You see this at Michigan with Carr when they fired a Hall of Fame head coach, and then they went through 8, 9, 10 years, a decade of horridness. Georgia took its time, called a guy who was part of the program, who had Georgia roots, who wanted to come back, who coached for Saban. And look, he credits Saban a lot. Alabama fan here. We're not saying that he wasn't aided by Nick Saban in Alabama. He was greatly, and he learned a bunch of incredible stuff over there. We're very, very thankful for that. So I think recruitment, development of coaches, and his insistence on culture. You hear his speeches; they're stuff of legend. You hear his little he thinks a year ahead, and he comes up. Burn the boats is something that he gave a couple of years ago. That was his thing. Keep chopping, and it's this moniker that he does. So I think he understands the culture of college football and college and young men a great deal. It's not just X's and O's. He hires a Mike Bobo to do that very, very well. And the rest of it, he takes care of the feel and the vibe of the place. And if you talk to young men these days, these college kids, vibe is what they all about. They want to make sure that they are clicking with the culture in the locker room. And he has that on lockdown at Georgia.
It's the Dogs Podcast on the Locked On Network, Locked On Bulldogs with Clint and with Daniel. So please join them there. Clint, first time here at the Voice of College Football. You are welcome anytime. We appreciate the conversation. It was good stuff.
Yeah, I love being here. This was fantastic. I love what you guys are doing.